member organs, etc., that make up the UN. So it's not just this big building in New York, right? All to support the UN mission of building and maintaining international peace and security through international cooperation. We're going to hear about several tonight. Thank you all again for coming. The restrooms, you can go out that back door there. It is unlocked, which hasn't been at times. So you can use that door. And I will introduce our speakers in the order of their presentations. I'll introduce them all at once. And after each one presents, you'll have a few minutes to ask that person questions. And then after everyone is done presenting, if we have enough time, we'll throw it out to more questions. At the conclusion, we will adjourn for refreshments and an opportunity for conversation. Until then, there is some hot decaf coffee and tea, but we'll hold off on all those other goodies that Terrence baked all day. Connie.
Just wondered how people who are joining us on Zoom, how they might ask a question.
Thank you. That is in here. And how did I miss that, Connie? And I'm glad you're in here. The people who are joining us remotely may ask their questions in the chat. Thank you. So tonight's speakers in order of presentations are Alicia Arteaga Salgado of Nicaragua. She is a seasoned community advocate implementing nonprofit projects, facilitating entrepreneurship among women, promoting the well-being of Nicaraguan children, and providing legal services with a humane approach. Most recently, Dr. Arteaga served as professor and academic coordinator at Central America University, where she oversaw a postgraduate program in contract law. She's also a volunteer with World Vision Nicaragua, serving on its advisory council, audit and risk committee, and then the governance committee, and will actually serve as the president of that advisory council upon her return. Second speaker will be Amin Tawamoa Falau, who is a serial entrepreneur and project lead who leverages his expertise in digital media and marketing to bring about economic development in Tonga and the Pacific region. He is a founding partner and managing director of a digital marketing agency in the Kingdom of Tonga and is involved in Discover Tonga, which develops digital infrastructure for local tourism. As a longtime Tonga Red Cross Society volunteer, he has served as volunteer coordinator, training and deploying volunteers during a volcanic eruption and tsunami recovery operation, as well as the COVID-19 outbreak in January 22. Gulnara Ismailova of Azerbaijan is a change maker who is passionate about enhancing social values through entrepreneurship. For 8 years, she was program manager of Education Hub, an innovative platform that brings people together who innovate in Azerbaijan society through socially responsible and sustainable initiatives. She leads learning and development programs, ensuring program quality and expanding youth programs. She's especially proud to have played a role in securing the partnership of the European Venture Philanthropy Association, which then cemented social entrepreneurship into the government agenda. And our fourth speaker will be Michelle Sarmeno Camacho of El Salvador, who has extensive experience in regulatory policy, government, international cooperation, and in leading politically sensitive projects. We need her here. She is a government and regulatory expert for a project in economic growth and digital transformation, and is committed to improving the quality of regulations, digitizing permits, and promoting investment and innovation. Previous positions include Peace and Political Dialogue Project Leader with the UNDP, the UN Development Program, Legal Director of the Agency for Public Information and Data Protection, and Judicial Counsel for the Supreme Court of Justice. Let's give them a hand for all that they've accomplished. Alicia, please join us.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your precious time at this moment with us, where we would share about our country, our experiences. And thank you, friends, peers, everybody that is here. So this evening, I would like to share about this topic. I name it like empowering children through education and nutrition. Actually, we see the Sustainable Development Goals in different UN organizations in our country. And this time I choose two of them that work with children, and it's under the umbrella of feeding program, where we can see partnership with different UN organizations, agencies. And to continue, I would like to give you a brief landscape of my country, and this will be about the population. And we have over 7 million people. I want to bring you this map, and you can see where Nicaragua is located. It's in Central America. We said we are the heart of Central America, and we also have many issues about climate change because of the position we have there. Actually, many hurricane storms affect, and this represents many risks for the population. And sometimes we have as an effect, for example, class disruption for many days, and it's obviously is as a result, it becomes in losing the quality of education when the student cannot go to school. Well, for United Nations, Nicaragua has been member since its foundation in 1945. It was one of the first countries that was signature of the Constitution of United Nations. So this is a highlight I would like to bring you. And I will also tell you about different agencies that are present in my country. You see, we have many of them working with different components in my country. And I would like to target right now the student population. And we have, by constitutional law, education and elementary level is mandatory and free. So that's a good news. That's why all the effort are put for the student. And we have about 1 million of students in primary education. This is a data from the Ministry of Education. And actually the distribution between female and male are almost equal, you can see. And we keep this ratio where women are the one that keep studying. Sometimes this tends to be about the social structure. The men tend to keep working, women in home, and things are changing slowly, but these are a good news that women keep studying till further grades. And about the place, the student games are mainly from urban and rural, and we have a good amount of people from the urban sector that as a country with agricultural based economy, this is also representative from my country. In the next presentation, as I say, we will see first, I would like to introduce about UNICEF. And for some that haven't seen what is UNICEF, as the nomenclature claims about United Nations Children Fund. And UNICEF work, while these three pillars, we have quality of education, we also have health, nutrition, and child development. In finally, child protection that is represented to try to reduce violence in the household, in families, try to change the social structure where there's no punishment in the home. There are some work in collaboration with different ministries, for example, the family ministry, education ministry, and as the previous mentioned, education try to improve. So UNICEF usually work in the with the hand or hand in hand with the Ministry of Education, support with funding, with training, quality, and this is represented in the school through the community because we think in the school like the center that gathers many actors, for example, community, school leaders, professor, teacher also represent for us a leader, and is the one that for this feeding program, there is a schedule where parents get involved into cooking the meal every single day. So this means a lot and how they can add different ingredients and making the food healthy meals every single day. We will see also that about the health nutrition. There's something that our food is based on carbs, but there is a lot of practices that try to do a healthy meal that combine with other ingredients that usually parents bring to the table. And sometimes there's a lot of partnership with some small businesses that can add eggs or some extra protein that will be expensive, but this will be like a value add the community brings to the school. And that's a strength, the bones in the community. And then we can also see how all these pillars and programs structure are actually connected with some of the SDGs. And I bring you some that are the more visible, will be the quality of education, decent work as a reflection that after some schooling grades, actually once and out reaching some higher educational levels. And in every practice, we found that students help in the school to clean the classroom, and there's always try to divide the chores between female and male, and not all, because in the past it was like only the girl student it was the only one that had to clean the classroom. There are some things that are changing actually. And we think education actually transforms lives and breaks the cycle of poverty. This is one of the main things. Then, keeping with another agency, we have the World Food Program that actually works with. We have in UNICEF practices, training, and then we have with World Food Program building a structure in the school kitchen. We also have, for example, in this program is the one that provides 6 main ingredients like rice, bean, oil, and another strong products that represent, for example, for 6 semesters, $4.3 million to support around 900 students during 6 months. So that means that it's also a challenge because this is all these funds came from this organization, and this organization also have to do some sponsorship, some crowdfunding, some lobby to get these funds actually and let them arrive to my country. And as I previously mentioned, the risk we have as a region, we face 2 seasons actually. We face winter, strong rainfall, flooding, hurricane, and on the other hand, we also have a dry season. A strong dry season that makes loss of the harvest in some weird years. And this is why our country is also aiming by try to improve the malnutrition and try to work focus all the intervention in this central area where are the dry corridor located. We can see here that there are some school meal preparation, some practices that try to enhance food safety, and there are some activities that also have this agency works with, for example, farmers, smallholders that are located in the community, and by one means they provide some resources to the school in kind or in cash, and by other means they are need to keep alive their farmers, their production for getting actually the food system keep stable and keep thriving. And here we find the nexus with SDGs through zero hunger, through reducing inequalities, because in all this labor, women are trying to play a role, a visible one. We think that this is really important to work with partnership for this goal, because this involves many actors, many stakeholders. And I would like to close this kind of making some remarks. Actually, for us, sustainable development goals are inherently connected to one another. I mean, we have an order of SDGs, but that doesn't mean that one goes before the other or is more important than the other. And that's only mean that there have some certain degree of connection with the other, because it could be more present from a school intervention, educational, but have an economic effect action. And we also think that these two agencies, UNICEF, WFP, aim to foster education, to reduce poverty. For us, poverty will be like the main goal. It's like the umbrella of everything. And that's why maybe it's also named as the first one. And both education and nutrition are pivotal and crucial for all the success of the future generation. I think this will set the cornerstone of everything to be prepared, physical and mentally. And well, thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to do it. Thank you.
Any questions at this point? Yes, questions, David. Oh, sorry.
Are you working primarily with children or adults?
I work. Okay, I work during almost. It's up. Thank you. I work over a decade with children actually in the schools, and that's where my experience come from. I was involved with teachers in schools, and we have a project that was financed with a big company that has its headquarters here in the United States, and they provide funds for Care International at that time. And we built some structure in the schools where they have a space for having the meal in a table, because if not, they will have the meal inside a classroom in a single chair for every student. And we try to promote socialization, also add this community involvement inside the same school, because one is dispersed, maybe the whole intention, the whole purpose will be lost. Thanks.
Thank you.
So because the feeding and the programs are for the primary students, what age do they age out of that? And then, so how many go on further, or do they go out to work, or what happens?
Okay, we have different scenarios. Usually the age for primary education goes from there are 6 grades, and the age goes from 6 year to 12. And I tried to do a comparison about the whole system. We have like 3 year less. We see also secondary education and so on. And it depends of the economic development of the country, for example, because in our country it's allowed by law to start working when you have 14 years old. And also we have actually the rates of promotion of competition of the primary education students are like 100%. Even I can of the record, I would say that this is my government data. So, yes, we have all those kind of stuff, but there's a lot of focus on trying to keep this like the strongest one, because then it's set on the hands of the parents. They are also private schools. The parents may pay by their own and may go to better educational system in secondary school or university and so on.
Any questions on the chat?
There's a question online. Zenon Wesinski asks, have your programs been impacted by the government's decision to shut down nonprofits in the country?
Could you repeat the question, Alicia, when a question is asked?
I'll repeat it for you. Have the programs been impacted by the government's decision to shut down nonprofits in your country?
Well, I will say all the United Nations Association actually works with the government, because that's the main framework. Every agency has to work with the policy the government established, and this is worldwide. United Nations, that's why Nicaragua is a United Nations member that signed this constitutional. And they have topics in common that work with them, and that is one of the questions I will answer for this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. All the slides coming up. Just wanted to teach you guys how to say hello in my language.
Sure.
So you say mahalo, lele. Perfect. So malo lele means thank you for being well. Thank you, Alicia, for the first presentation, and Luna and everyone else for making it out here today, as well as those online. My name is Amin, and when you signed in at the back or was grabbing coffee, the paper or the laminated paper with the flags are from 97. Unfortunately, Todd didn't join until 99. So they won't show up on that piece of paper, but maybe we can look at sponsoring it next month for the next year.
You have the flag.
Yeah, I have it here. I could probably stick it on one of them. So this is a photo of, not Tonga, actually. This is a photo of a random Pacific island country, but it pretty much looks the same. So, and I picked this specific design, or this design motif, because it's called a manulu, or two birds, or two animals. And it signifies two birds moving together, which is quite important because we need to work together to develop our country and the world in general. The objectives for my presentation are fourfold. The first is for you to know where Tonga is. The second is a bit of the country context. The third is the UN presence in Tonga. And lastly, what the opportunities are. I think after we discuss the presence and the country context, you might have some ideas for the development of the country, and I'd love to hear them either after the presentation or when we're sharing coffee or something. First is, where is Tonga? It's on Earth. It's on planet Earth.
One more.
It's not showing up. Okay, I can read off the top of my head, but if you go back one more.
It might take a moment, maybe.
It might be slow. Oh, that's okay. Has anyone been to Texas? Yes, Texas is huge, right?
Yes.
Tonga's economic zone or the borders are roughly the same size as Texas. But the landmass is about 4 times the size of DC. Or if you've been to, I think Dominica is around the same landmass size, but that's spread out across many different islands. So that gives you a context of where it is. It's also in the South Pacific. Tonga specifically means south. So if you think about the equator, Pacific Ocean, Tonga's south. So for some country context, we'll just start here on the right. The coat of arms for Tonga, which was established when we became a constitutional monarch back in 1875. This was before the 50-year civil war in Tonga, which unified all of the islands. 170 total islands within the kingdom, but we have volcanoes, so we get new islands and then they disappear and then we get many new ones. So 170 states. Out of the 39, 70% of them live on one island, which is called Tongatapu, so the sacred south. And that's the main island where the palace is, administrative, and also a lot of the embassies. The motto for Tonga is actually God and Tonga on my inheritance. So that's deeply tied into people being very patriotic and proud of their country. The flag is up on the left and right. 3 stars signify the 3 kingly lines, the 3 Kanupolu, Tuhetalaua, and the Vitonga. And these lines essentially are the ruling royal families. And we are a constitutional monarch, so we are the last one in the Pacific. That gives us a bit of a different context when working with development goals and foreign affairs. And lastly, it's just a snapshot on what the economy really relies on, which is remittances, loans, investments from companies, and the bigger and wider diaspora in Tonga. In total, there's about 300,000 max Tongans, or people that identify as Tongans. And Tongans are the subgroup within the Polynesian people in the Pacific. In total, I think for Tongans in total, those that identify ethnically are probably less than 400,000. So if you do run into a Tongan, now you know where they are, what the coat of arms are, and what the flag is. So moving into the UN presence in Tonga, I've listed down 4 organizations that I've personally worked with in Tonga, and only one of them actually has an office or presence in Tonga, the International Office of Migration. The reason why there's only one office is because it's too small. You can't really have all of these offices in Tonga when the population is only 107,000 people. There's not really any need for it. However, the IOM, which actually during natural disaster times, they become essentially like a meeting ground for all the UN agencies. So if you need to find a UN agency during natural disaster, you find them at that office. The UN CDF, which is the Capital Development Fund, essentially work in finance and trying to get capital to lower income areas or lower socioeconomic areas. And also trying to infuse more literacy, digital literacy, financial literacy, and more money essentially into people's projects, which will essentially drive the economy. The World Food Program and also UNICEF, which are there. I've listed down 3 other organizations as well, but the majority of them are actually based in Fiji. If you've been to Fiji, in Suva, downtown Suva, you'll find their office there. The reason why Fiji is sort of the central hub for a lot of these agencies is because the airport actually flies to every island in the Pacific. Whereas if they're based in Tonga, it'll be pretty hard to get everywhere. For example, if you're flying into LAX from Fiji, it'll probably take about maybe 12 hours. Whereas if you go from Tonga, you've got to fly to Tonga, New Zealand, or Australia, and then fly over or to Fiji. So those are one of the big issues with development in my country is that logistically, it's very hard. We've got technology now, which is great. It's just, it's harder to give cultural context where people can't experience it. Looking at the SDGs in Tonga, I grabbed this from the UN site. And specifically, this is a dashboard for Tonga's progress in SDGs. The conclusions at the bottom, Tonga's going to miss majority of the targets by 2030. Now, the ones we are doing well in are 13, which is climate action, and 11, sustainable cities and communities. My work personally, I've been involved with probably number 8 and 9, and I'm starting to realize now number 17, which is partnerships for all the goals, is probably a core component for succeeding in all the rest. The other issue that we do face in Tonga is data collection. If you see, we've got 4 sustainable development goals, which are in gray. That means no information is available. There are 2 other issues that I've asked colleagues in Tonga about. One of them is core funding. Because funding comes into the country for specific avenues or specific goals, if your project doesn't have these specific goals in them, it won't get funded. But this goal might be working with communities on digital literacy, but has a foregoing effect into life on land, which is number 15, or life on the water 14, because people are fishermen. About 23% of the country lives in urban areas. And most of those urban areas are, we've got running water, power and everything. But if you can look up to number 1, it's in yellow. So challenges remain in that area. Number 2 actually is quite funny because when I think about zero hunger, Tonga is probably the most obese country in the world. Sitting at the adult population is about 97 with WHO stats. And those people are overweight. I myself am classified as overweight, judging by Western standards with the body mass index. When you go to the country, a lot of us can still climb coconuts, go swimming, we're very active. So I don't always rely on these standards when looking at health. And so for the big conclusion that I came up with after consulting with colleagues, the climate change is the very big issue. It's integrated into everything. If our environment, our homes aren't secure, food security goes down. That's hunger. People get hungry, they don't want to go to work, they don't want to go to school. That's education. People not going to work means less money coming in. You don't spend money, the economy goes up. With climate change as well, there is a lot of funding in climate change in the Pacific, both from the UN, other funding agencies, the IMF, Commonwealth Fund, which is British former colonies, which Tonga isn't a colony because it was never colonized, but due to advances from France and Germany, we signed a friendship treaty, which we learned from the British how to write a constitution, and then we kind of used it against them, so we didn't get colonized. Now we're looking at the opportunity. I'm going to ask you all to read that at the bottom of the screen. This means Ngāhi Whaingamālia ki he kaha. So Ngāhi Whaingamālia means the different opportunities. Ki he kaha means the future. So the different opportunities in the future that I personally see is SDG number 17 with partnering for these goals. That could be sitting down and having conversations with people while you're having coffee so that they're aware of it. Or it could be bringing cities or countries together through different programs. Second is diversified core funding. We all need money. Sometimes we need to get it from different sources. That could be from partner organizations. And I found this quite interesting in the US that there are a lot of foundations here. It's just, they don't know that these organizations need the assistance. So that's potentially one thing I should be working on while I'm here and when we go back to talk. And lastly is the strategic framework for Tonga, which is essentially our 10-year plans. It's coming up to the end this year. And I'm on the committee for economic development from the private sector. So last time we had a big debate about the age of youth. They wanted to bring it up to 40, and the age cutoff was 25. And I actually fought for it to be up to 40. The reality is, a lot of people aren't getting married. Myself, I'm not married, but I do have a partner. We don't have kids yet, and I'm already out of that normal youth bracket. Now, funding doesn't come in for youth programs for those over that age. And lastly, thank you.
We have time for a couple questions.
Yeah, I was just wondering, talk about one of your main concerns is the environment, wondering what environmental, changes have you experienced in your life?
Erosion. From the island that my dad grew up on, which is in Hawaii, one of the other island groups. Our family property goes up to the beach, and the beach is public land. The beach is essentially encroached onto our living area, so what we've got listed down on the deed for the land is actually a lot smaller than what is actually there now. The other is probably pollution from people littering. There's no processing plants for plastic in Tonga, which was a big issue during COVID-19 with a lot of the assistance coming in. A lot of it was water. So when the water bottles came in, we didn't have a way to process the leftover water bottles, which is a project I think the waste management team in Tonga is actually working on, trying to get more people aware. Even if it's donations, to think about cash, that's probably easiest, and then earmark it for specific goals. So I think that's probably.
Yeah.
Yes. How much of the Tonga Islands is farmable? How much agriculture is there?
100%. Tonga is the most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. And that's probably from the 2023 report.
And then how much of the land is agriculture?
Agriculture.
Agriculture
How much of the food is produced locally?
depends. Because we're also supplying to other Tongas in other countries, you probably divide. If I've got a lot of land in an acre, for example, I probably use 3/4 of that to send overseas to family. So Tonga is actually quite sustainable in its food. It's just getting it out in time, the logistics again becomes a big problem. But out of the total landmass in Tonga, for example, the main island, that 23% of them live within the CBD area, which is probably akin to East Lansing, not Lansing, but East Lansing. And then the rest of the land.
Thank you, Alan. Now for Galnara.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you. Before starting my presentation, I have one question for you. Last time, when did you face any climate change affected to your personal life? Okay. Yes.
I would say the first time I really noticed was in 1988. And we had a severe drought and some of the hottest temperatures, and then it was until, I don't think until into the 2000s before it got hotter in the US than it ever was in 1988. So that was probably my first big realization that things became.
Thank you. Actually, I was joking with my family. I told them, yesterday was -30 here, so it's Celsius. And that's today I said, I'm very happy because today it's -22. So I also facing this issue, but I'm lucky that I'm from Azerbaijan, the country where you can see modern and Asian tradition together. This is old city, and behind you will see This is one of new modern Baku symbol, fire temple. Actually, the meaning of Azerbaijan is land of fire. So why land of fire? Because in my country, lots of fire temple, fire mountain, our tradition related to fire. We have so many connections related, because my country, before Islam, we are Muslim country now, but before Islam, we believe Zoroastrianism, like fire. So in our beliefs, everything like connected to fire. And fire is like holy things for my culture. Today I'm going to talk about COP29. Recently it's happened. What is COP? I want to give you like some example that actually this is an abbreviation COP, but the real name is Conference of Parties, which was started under United Nations, first time 95 in Berlin. So different like countries, they came together, and it was discussion that so we need, and it is big need to focus on climate change topic. Actually, in when COP events starts, like in the area, there are like two areas. One is green zone, one is blue zone. Blue zone, it is mainly for UN organizations. So they are organizing different events by UN agencies. But green zone is open to public. And all like civil society member, scientists, and different public figures, so they are in green zone. Blue zone is more official place, and so to attend in blue zone, so you need some special accreditation. This year, Azerbaijan, actually last year, 24, Azerbaijan has honored to host COP29 in Baku in Azerbaijan. It happened in November, from 11th of November till 22nd of November. The important thing is that I was here, but virtually I attended all the events in Baku during COP25. So I had opportunity, my organization worked in green zone and blue zone. So we brought all the issues, like what we feel that important, to share with our public and international organization, government, so addressing the key challenges, what we face, our daily life, and so we brought these issues. And for these activities, I already share with our fellows that in December, I was in Baku. I visited shortly my country, my family, and I had the opportunity to get special award from President of Azerbaijan for my work during COP29. So I think thank you. So it was really like honor for me to get this appreciation and to bring our messages in important instances. So COP, during COP, the main idea is addressing and bringing climate change topics and reducing carbon emissions. And the main important things that to push, sometimes like to collaborate with countries that we need to work together, because I can hear from my colleagues' presentation also, you already mentioned that like all countries, we are depending from climate change, because it is not the issue that only operates in one country and we will not affect it. So we affect all of us. So it means that all of us, we have different, like as citizens,
we have our obligation, how we need to act. So it's very important that you can also see UN SDG goal 17, it's also about collaboration, about partnership. So it means that all countries, all organizations, we need to work closely and to support each other to overcome climate change issues. Why Azerbaijan was hosting COP29? Probably some of you are not aware that we are oil country, oil and gas country, and we are big like supplier of oil and gas to European countries. So, but Azerbaijan has commitment to work on and to establish renewable energy sources in Azerbaijan. My capital, Baku, where I live, it calls Baku. In my language, we say Bakir. Baku, it means the city of winds. We are a very windy city. And thanks to wind, we can use wind energy in the country. And my country, they try to use wind energy and other renewable energy sources to promote and also to bring these alternative options to climate changes. And Azerbaijan is, we locate between Europe and Asia. So it means like the big Silkway Road also in Asian time was through Azerbaijan. So we have lots of background experience to share with other countries and also to facilitate this process. In COP29, they had concrete goals when Azerbaijan hosted. The first one was like reducing of carbon emission, renewable energy, and supporting vulnerable communities to work together, and how we can bring international community attention to these issues. During COP, we have noticed that different protests from civil society actors, because you know that most of carbon emission like problem comes from developing countries like US, like big famous European countries. But they don't want to bring back and they don't want to support. And we also faced this issue that civil activists, eco-activists, they was actively brought this issue that we need climate financing. We need protect our biodiversity. We need to bring new innovation to society to change this process. And we need to highlight and promote renewable energy in our lives. As we already said that, like, we can see that how this is affecting our personal life, our community life. So we can observe it every time. So it means that, like, when we are facing these issues, like rising temperature, so we can see that. I was also asking some of our host family that, like, about this. Is it common weather for Michigan, for some areas? So you can also see that in our daily life. So it is changing all the time. This is my son. Yes. When he was 12 years old, he was one of European young ambassador, and he was serving 2 years as young ambassador in Europe. So I believe that, like, for each person, they have their own like personal task in this world. So we need to take action as personal. So we need to work with our communities. We need to change and reduce energy uses. So I know that like if each of us, everything starts from family. If our families, we bring these messages to our neighbors, our colleagues, so we will change our world. So I wish you, we will live like green zone in future. Thank you very much. Yes, please, I'm looking for your questions. Yeah, yes.
Well, since, our president has
Nothing.
withdrawn us from the Paris agreement and has said we're not gonna do that. Obviously, we have to go local and smaller, but what do you think other countries in Azerbaijan and the UN, you know, you just kind of think, well, now what do we do?
Actually, I was thinking about the topic. Can I touch this topic or not? Because it was like recently signed 20th of January that like US decided to withdraw from Paris Declaration. And I also read some material how implication will be. I think the first thing that it will, unfortunately, it will affect to global collaboration because US was one of main financial supporter in this process. But I read some information that like even in US, despite the fact that this was signed, like some of US states, they decide that they will continue this initiative. I think it was California, if I'm not wrong. I have seen this from the news set. So I don't have other data, but I know that like some like states will support this process. But it is for me it is like a transition period. So now we are just thinking that okay, what will be happen? But I believe that like European countries like Germany, France, UK, who are leading on climate change activities, actions. So they will take forward because in Baku also it was a really tough time that Azerbaijan tried to facilitate the process to increase financial support to developing countries on these issues. So let's hope for better one. Yes, thank you.
You, in fact, will have a chance to tell your member of Congress tonight that they need to, after listening to all this, they need to address sustainable development goals, right? They're gonna have a chance to do that. That was a good question, Teresa. Michelle?
Thank you, Lee. Well, and Michelle, as you already know, I want to talk a little bit about this. All the images that I have used in my presentation, I generated them with artificial intelligence. And I have some things to share with you while I was doing that, because I love to experiment some things. So I decided to talk about sustainable development goals and digital government. A pact for the future, a pact for the present, I'm sorry, and a challenge, no, a pact for the future and a challenge for the present. I need to make an important caveat. I tend to make up words, make direct translations. So as like the famous singer Celia Cruz used to say, I'm sorry if my English is not very good looking. So I trust on all of you to make the gap and fix that problem with yourself. So this one, we're gonna talk to you a little bit about this photo. I want a photo that portrays a brain that is blossoming with ideas, greenery, and technology. And at first, it gave me a man face. I never said man in my command. I came out as a man. So I was like, okay, let's try again. So I said, and please make it as a woman face. So this came out from that conversation, and I wanted to add like different elements, because I'm not gonna talk specifically about the agencies that work in El Salvador, but about the discussion related to digital government.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one, please. What is digital government? I have experienced this myself. It sounds like a very fancy group of words, but people is like, oh yeah, digital government, whatever you are talking about. So I was like, okay, let's state the grounds first and talk about what is digital government. So we will understand why this is important. So the Organization of American States, which is the US's part, the IDB, the UN, and the World Bank, all these agencies are working in digital government. And they have different definitions with some common components that I included in this slide. Citizen-centric public services. What does this mean? That people and public agencies need to think how to provide better services for citizens and how can they use this in the best way. And I will bring a quote that I learned when I was in law school, like 2 years ago, not that much ago, from a guy. I have a terrible memory, but this phrase became embedded in my head because it makes sense for everything I have learned to that point and everything I learned after. The name of this guy is Jelinek. He is a very important author when it comes to law. And he said that a government or a state is justified for its goals. Terence may have heard this and may correct my English later. So it makes sense to me because it was like, of course, I mean, if we have a state and if we have a government, there is a reason for that because they are supposed to guarantee people's quality of life. And if a government is not doing that and it's incapable of doing that, we should rethink about it. What things or what changes do we need to make? So now we are in an era of digital transformation. So we need to think in terms of digital government. And this is a null discussion. It went from e-parliaments, e-government, digital transformation, digital government. Now you will hear GovTech is the other term that is going on. But all these things should land on this, universally accessible. I went to the Google Public Sector Summit last September. And I was so badly impressed about one thing that I saw. They were like trying to, it was like they were working in an initiative that was a working process. So what was it about? This was about how you can get your health benefits when you are suffering some sort of discapacity or you had an accident at work and now you needed to receive some funds related to that. And we were looking at it and it was like, oh, this sounds great because you take this photo and then the artificial intelligence will recognize the drugs that you are taking and you upload this document and you create a profile, etc., etc. And I was like, okay, how this will work for people who cannot see? How this will work for blind people? And they were like, well, they will need someone to help them to do it. So where is the discussion now? Are we thinking in those terms too? Is technology becoming a new factor of exclusion? So they need someone to help them. Google. This is not just a smart company in a garage in my country. Google told me that, and that's something. Whole government approach. Technology has to permeate all the government activities and how it relates to citizens. Simple, efficient, and transparent government systems makes things easier, more accountability, better data, change in corporate culture, organizational models, methods, and processes. Like in any organization, if you are doing something disruptive, you need to consider people. And I came to learn, and it never crossed my mind until that point, that unions have an important role here. We were talking with an institution in El Salvador, and they were like, we need to identify how to present this because the unions are going to be against this. People tend to think that they're going to lose their jobs. But transformation in terms of technology has been happening forever. So we just need to think in other jobs and how we create other capabilities. Use of ICT to enable public institutions to meet needs of citizens. As I said, governments are in place to make our lives better, more equitable, more inclusive. Data analytics to improve organization and decision-making process. Who may have more information than governments? That if you have those massive quantities of information and cannot process them and put them in a way that can serve you to make decisions, is like happening in a paper in a storage space. If governments are able to use this information and use it across agencies, they will be able to make better decisions. And of course, that should make us aware also about our own information. Information is gold. And this one is my personal addition. Regulatory frameworks to promote innovation, digital transformation. Digital government is not only making governments work better, but making governments to create the conditions so you can have a digital ecosystem that allows society to develop to other levels. When I was thinking about the SDGs, this might relate, my first answer was all of them. Of course, because I want my work to sound important. But I went to see each of them, trying to find specific actions, and at least all of these have something to do with digital government. I still think that all of them. You can be able to monitor crops if you include technology onto that. You can make forecasting on many things if you use data in appropriate manner. Clean energy, economic growth, infrastructure. In El Salvador, to get a construction permit can take you 270 days. 270 days. And construction is the area that increases the GDP more than other areas and create jobs. If you want to check, I don't know how much it takes in the US, but there is the business ready index, and you can check it out. Because we tend to think that the US is on top, where no, folks. I went to the digital government index, and the US is not even in the top 10. So the one that relates the most to digital government is peace, justice, and strong institutions. If we want development, we need to have governments in the picture, and we need to have technology on that picture along that. We can administrate better our schools, administrate better our programs if we use technology to that, and if digital government comes into place. But in countries like El Salvador, for example, we don't even have trust data on how many students go to a school. Why? Because the schools receive money depending on the amount of the students they have. But if we have better IT programs, and we can monitor that and make better decisions. So the discussion is on the table about digital government. And the UN has some discussions on it, but it's not necessarily leading the discussion. So something important happened last year on September. And these 3 documents came into place. The Pact for the Future, that includes 5 areas and has a specific area for science and technology. The Global Digital Compact, which is another document that has objectives, principles, commitments, and actions that are related to digital government for the future, and the Declaration on Future Generations, which are related to this commitment, but thinking ahead. If you have ever looked at the definition of sustainable development of the UN, it means using your resources in a way that doesn't compromise the lives of the next generations. So the same has to happen with digital government. Next one, please. So what's been going on in the region? When we talk about digital government, it's not an isolated discussion. The digital discussion is in the region. So when it comes to the American continent, this is another story. I went to the AI. I want a map of the American continent, remember this word, American continent, that shows technology and connectivity. What did it give me? A map that ended up here and had a US flag on the US and Alaska. It was like, American continent. And then I went again and was like, the American continent must include North America, Central America, and South America. It took me like 4 trials to get that. What is the interesting thing behind this? Bias in data. There are people that have been traditionally excluded and is still excluded of data and will be excluded of development if we don't include them. So what is going on? Digital public infrastructure. Most of the systems share few things. An ID, a single sign-on, only one place where you log in and interact with governments. We have challenges in cybersecurity and data privacy, new threats for sovereignty as well, policy frameworks and guidelines. And this is something that is going on in Central America and in South America too. Mercosur Digital Citizen. Now we are trying to have an ID that can identify us across borders. Uruguay and Brazil are already trying that. So in this presentation, I wanted to give you a very wide overview. We can talk later about what El Salvador has done in those terms, but if I were to leave you with one important idea, this will be a discussion of development that does not include the role of government and technology is incomplete and will lead us to a certain fate. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
I know you said you wanted to talk, you could talk about specific things happening in El Salvador. Could you give us one example at least of
Absolutely.
how this work in digital government is developing?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sharon. Well, in El Salvador, we have had like 2 initiatives. I will briefly describe them and then give you one important challenge that may be happening across the region. We have a Secretary of Innovation, and there is another Office of Advisors of the President. I work for the second office. So we were in charge of 270 million projects, 20 of which were oriented for digitalization. So right now, the aim of that project was to digitize 800 procedures and try to make the most of them to be done in 1 day and reduce at least in a 50% the number of days it can take you. And also to try to create a platform when you can log in to interact with government and then you can interact with all the agencies. Because this may happen in the US also. In Brazil is a good example. Brazil is switching from, for example, my state ID to a national ID. Because in Brazil, every state issues their own national ID. But then how can you interact with government if you have this? You have silos of information which became useless because you cannot cross this information and make better decisions. So all the countries are trying to transition to one ID that can allow you to interact with your government and later on may allow you to have cross-border interactions. The other thing that is happening in Central America, we are implementing electronic signature in the region, but it might take a little bit longer. And there is another platform from the Central American region, but it's not transactional. They can share information. And if we look at the map, you may remember Alice's map also. Central America is not that interesting if the countries go separately, but it's interesting as a region. And we are a corridor for goods and people. So we need to integrate us more. And Costa Rica is the one leading the discussion when it comes to America. You have implementers, adopters, and pioneers. Costa Rica is an adopter. The rest of Central American countries are exploring. And Brazil, Chile, and Uruguay are pioneers. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. How your brain's doing what my brain is doing, I guess. Thank you so much, all of you. I asked Hassan if he could jump to another slide, but don't they spur on your need to take action to get us doing more? Yes. So right now, if you get out your those devices that you quieted down. If you take out something that will allow you to text, you're gonna tell the Congress that they need to do something more about the SDGs. And of course, part of that is supporting the UN, but please text to the number 30644. Write the word S or the letters SDG. And it will send you to a link at which you can take action. And, you know, I think maybe Teresa's question about like, what can we do about climate and Elmira, it was so great that you answered like you did, because you're right. States are taking action, you're right. But we cannot be quiet. We have to keep making our needs known in the next years. We have to keep communicating. You know, if it's climate, and we all are worried about climate, we have to keep talking, yelling, texting, phoning our members of Congress and beyond. We can even write to the White House. So have you all sent the message? Should have taken you to a link and you were able to, and you know, if you're like me, once you do one of these, they've got your info. And so it's much easier to fill it out the next time and the next time and the next time. So please do this. And I will say on the UNA USA website, you can go to opportunities to take action. And it will take you to a number of texting opportunities about different issues that are important. So that's another thing. And you know that UNA is an advocacy organization, and we send out emails with advocacy opportunities. Please pay attention to those. Congress, they need to hear from us. They keep track. So thank you for taking those actions. Wow, I can't wait to break up for conversation, right? Because I'm sure you want to run over to some of them, but I'm first. No, I'm not. Connie?
So I just have a question about this.
Yes.
Are we going to be contacting our own senators and representative, or does this go to all of them? To whom does this go?
Well, it depends on that one. You put your address in it, right?
Yeah.
Your address is in it, and so it will send it to your members of Congress.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yes. First, as I said, we're an advocacy organization, so, and Robert Lurie is going to tell us a little bit about that. Robert is our membership chair, and while he walks up here.
Yeah, this is gonna be like 12 seconds. So, you know, in the world that I work, there are the cool kids and there are the not cool kids, okay? These are the cool kids. Right? If you want to be a good kid and you haven't been a cool kid yet, there's you can join the GLUNA organization. Back here, there's you can use your advice again to do that, whether you're youthful or not youthful, the more the merrier. I think that advocacy cannot happen without education happening first. I think we're much more aware of what we're advocating now after the last hour that we've spent with these amazing people. And so, you know, yes, this is an advocacy organization, but it's an information organization that will give you the groundwork you need to be the advocate for what we want and the world we want to live in, which is what the UN is, I think, goal is. So thanks, Lynn. Please come back, and if you haven't signed in also, that'd be great.
The website is there.
Yeah, that's there, and there's also back there as well. Okay, so you can take one.
GLUNA.org. Very quickly, before we break for refreshments and conversation, I would like to introduce the GLUNA president, Denise Quarles. There's another one you might want to chat with, but as well as our other board members. Can other board members who are here stand up, please? So Terrence Blackburn, Bob Barnhart, Metzger, David Porter, and Tassin Sarda. We thank you all for your work. And Terrence Blackburn, who is our program chair, has a thank you gift for the four of you. And I didn't tell him I'd be calling him up at this point. So Terrence, oh, you got it?
In an elegant delivery box.
If it is a check, it doesn't matter.
The good news is you won't have to help me carry them back to the car.
Yeah, I'm watching and I expect little kitties to out of the box.
Okay. Just a little something for each of you, very inelegantly wrapped, but that's the best I can do, so. Thank you all. What's inside of this can selected, so.
And there are some other Humphrey Fellows here tonight, who you may also want to speak with. So let's see, if you'll stand when up with the Humphrey Fellows stand and I will, okay. So back here we have Francis Nyonzo from Tanzania. And then we have Aruj Pirzadeh from Pakistan. And Mehran Khan, also from Pakistan, and Hajir Negaz from Algeria, and Samira Ousmane from Niger. Thank you all for being here. Okay. Oh, you were great. Thank you again, all of you online, as well as those who are here with us tonight. It's great to have shared all of this with you. And now it's time for some goodies. There's decaf coffee, tea, cookies, etc. back there. Okay, thank you.